I danced through the bullshit, danced through the pain, danced through the dark when they forgot my name. Back to the wall, but I still stand tall. Unheard athlete, yeah. I danced through it all. I danced through it all.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Unheard Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Ellison Jordan, for the Unheard Athlete Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys will be able to enjoy this podcast. Before I get into this podcast, I'd like to introduce to you guys the intro statement to what Unheard Athletes is all about. We created this podcast for athletes that have struggled with trials and tribulations in their respective sport, and we're silenced when they try to speak out about the truth about the situation. We're often told to be quiet, let it go, move on for certain situations that have impacted our livelihoods. With Unheard Athlete, we're giving athletes a platform to speak about their truth without them being looked down upon, ridiculed, chastised, etc. So basically, giving athletes a free space, giving athletes a safe space, most importantly, to speak their truth, to speak the truth about the situations that's impacted them the most, whether it's from, football, basketball, tennis, etc. Primarily for college student athletes who have suffered from trials and tribulations that they suffered in college. And to start that off, I'm going to give you my experience about how personal situations impacted my livelihood back in college and how it's impacted my family's livelihood as well. But that'll be later down the line. Before I get into that, I'm going to give you a little background story about me and how everything came into fold. So, a little bit about me. My name is Ellison Jordan again. Was born in Washington, D.C., raised in Prince George's County, Maryland, Upper Marlboro to be exact. That's where I grew up. That's where I learned who I was, not only as a football player, but as a person. Another thing I would say, as a kid, I would describe myself as a humble, genuine. I cared about people, very affectionate, was very outgoing, etc. Love to get to know people, But the one attribute that I would describe myself the most, that the best described me, was the fact that I was very determined. No matter how hard something looked, how treacherous it looked, or how hard it may seem, I was very dedicated to get it done. I was very dedicated to accomplish the task. So no matter if it was on a gridiron or in a classroom, I'll do the best I can to accomplish that task. So I feel like me being a determined individual made me who I am today. And that's the reason why I'm doing this podcast. Before football meant anything serious to me, I was just trying to do sports to stay in shape, to get active. Back in the day, I wasn't really like super active. So I had to find something to keep me active. My parents wanted me to be active for my health. Not that I had any major health issues when I was a kid, but I was a little chubbier. So back in the day, I had to find some sports to help me, tone up a little bit, lose some weight. So initially, I tried baseball out. Excuse me. That wasn't super fun. It wasn't boring, but it could have been a lot more fun. And I was an outfielder, so at that level, like little kids league, there wasn't like a whole lot of home runs or a lot of out pop flies to come out to the outfield. So I was like really staying on the island for real. So baseball wasn't that fun. Basketball was okay. It's just the fact that I wasn't that good. So it never really monetized into anything. It never really grew into anything. It was just something I just wanted to do to keep in shape. But football was the main sport that I resonated the most with. It was very relatable. It was fun. And it helped me get in shape at the time. And that's something that I wanted to do. That's the main sport that I wanted to play. Other sports, I watched the pros a little bit. I watched the NFL. I watched college a little bit growing up. I had 2-3 cousins that played high school, college. I don't think any played in the pros, but I had some that played at that level. But the one person who got me into playing football and got me into playing sports in general was my dad. And he not only got me into sports, but he helped me get ready for sports. He helped me get ready. He helped me train. And the way he helped me train was we had this trail in our neighborhood. this bike trail. My dad loves riding his bike, even till this day, to get in shape and stay active. So he took me on the trail one time. And I'm thinking it's gonna be like a nice stroll, like pedaling the bike, just riding the bike with my dad. But it turned into an intense workout. We were riding for like a couple miles. We were on the trail, and even then, he was still on me like water rice. He was really, really stern with me. Whether it was if I wasn't pedaling the bar, not the bar, if I wasn't pedaling the pedals that fast, if I wasn't steering the bike correctly, if I wasn't pushing myself as hard as I could have, he was on me. And initially, I was confused because I thought this was supposed to be like a nice little stroll, but he made this into a workout. So I was like to myself, or I asked my dad, "Why are you pushing me so much, Dad? Why are you making this so much of a big deal?" And he told me straight up, like, when you try out for football, that's how the coaches are going to be. They're going to be on you. They're going to want the most of you. They're going to push you to the limits. And I'm forever grateful for my dad for instilling his, toughness on me in terms of pushing me on the bike trail, because it got me prepared for how the coaches are going to be in football. Switching gears into how I started playing football. There was tryouts at Largo High School for this team called this youth football team called the KLM Cougars. They're still relevant today. So I tried out for that team at Largo High School, which is like 5 minutes down the road. And initially, I didn't know what to expect. I was nervous because I didn't think I was going to do that well. And unfortunately, at the first glance, I didn't do that well. I couldn't do a push-up. I couldn't do a sit-up. I couldn't get around the field. I had to have people literally push me behind. I had to push me to literally finish the lap. And it took a while, and it was treacherous, but I got through it. And I was able to get through it because, like I said before, I'm a determined individual, and it definitely looked hard, and it was hard, and it was definitely difficult, but I got through it. And that lasted for about a month. We were training, we were doing agility ladders, we were, doing bag work, we were doing all that type of stuff at Largo High School. And then we were doing that for a month. But then after a month passed, I wound up making the team, the JV team. And I was around 10 years old in the 4th grade when I started playing football. So I was like on a football team. It was an unlimited team where you can be any weight at any age. So that's where I was. My first year playing football, I was just doing it just to stay in shape, stay active. My parents wanted me to stay in a pretty good organization where the structure was good and the foundation was set. Meaning, what I mean by the foundation is like a good foundation where things are relatable. They keep you focused. They keep you accountable. They hold you accountable and all that type of stuff. So having a good organization that had those standards and had those rules for me set in place was going to help me not just on the football field, but in the community, in school, etc. So being a part of KLM was a great moment for me and a great time during that tenure. But the first year, I was just trying to stay in shape for real. And then throughout the season, as I went through the season playing games, it started to become fun. I was playing middle linebacker my first year, and it was a good time playing football as a 4th grader. I had a real good time. Like, it turned into something that I just wanted to do to keep me in shape, and to the point where I was having fun with it. Fast forward, 5th grade year, I didn't play because my 4th grade year, my first year playing football, I got in a car accident and I tweaked. Nothing serious happened. Me and my dad were okay. The car was totaled, unfortunately, but me and my dad were okay. But I think I tweaked my foot or some part of my body and the doctor recommended that I sit out the following year, which I did. So I sat out my 5th grade year, and then I came back 6th grade year. And 6th grade year, things started to pick up a little bit in a good way. I got taller. I built in my frame. I already had a year under my belt. I didn't know the system all throughout, but I knew a little bit about it because I already had a year under my belt, still playing JV. And then it got to the point where this became fun. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm just doing this to stay in shape. mean, it was still important for me to stay in shape and stay active, but it got to the point where I wanted to play football for real, like just for fun. And that's what it was, fun. So initially, playing in sixth grade, I also switched positions. I played defensive line. I was playing linebacker, like I said, my first year in fourth grade, but then I skipped my fifth grade year and then went to sixth grade. I missed a year because of the injury. I wound up playing D line. So I grew in my frame a little. I grew into my frame a little bit. I started to bulk up a little bit. I got a little taller. So they put me on the D line. And that sixth grade year was pretty fun because I knew what I had to. I knew what I was capable of. I knew the things that I had to work on, and I knew the things that I've already did to prepare me for my second year playing football. And what made it so fun was the fact that towards the end of the year they had banquets, and at the end of the year, my first year I didn't get nothing, which I wasn't expecting to get anything crazy because it was my first year and I was still learning. But my second year, my sixth grade year, we was at the banquet and they gave me most improved player of the year. And that was very humbling and very proud moment for me because I knew I accomplished something. I knew I improved. I improved. I improved on my conditioning, knowing the plays, making plays in the game, etc. So for them to give me a most improved player of the year meant something to me at the time because it showed that determined kid that I knew I was, it turned into something good. And it was something that I hold dear to my heart, to be honest with you, because I think, not to say that medals and trophies are anything, but acknowledgement is pretty important to me, honestly. So not all the acknowledgement, but the fact that they acknowledged me as someone who improved, it was very humbling experience for me. It was very humbling for me. So that was fun. Seventh grade year, again, things start to pick up again in a good way. Seventh grade year, I don't know how old I was. I might have been 14, 13, 14. So seventh grade year, I started to play varsity. I've been in the program for a couple of years. I've been around people. I was in better shape. I knew the system a little bit. I was playing varsity now. And initially I almost came close to not making varsity because they wanted me to play O-line and for real, I didn't like playing O-line. So I would do things on purpose like hold or do something, act like I didn't know the plays just to not play O-line. They were about to cut me and send me down to JV. But they also recognized what I can do on the defensive side of the ball. So they kept me on varsity because of that. And it got to the point that I was doing so well at defensive line, at defensive tackle for varsity, that I actually started getting recognized by my first high school team called the DeMatha Stags. For those of you who don't know DeMatha is a very well-known program across not just Maryland, but across the country for their football program and other things as well. But just specifically for football, they're very well known. So that was the first school who looked at me. So that year, what I mean by things started to pick up, other schools other than DeMatha started looking at me, like St. John's, Good Counsel, Carroll, McNamara, Bishop Ironton, other schools in the WCAC. So when my seventh grade year hit, when I was going through my seventh grade year, I was getting a lot of recognition from other schools. And that was a big accomplishment for me because it's kind of like it showed how the hard work that I was putting in, the growth I had, had to do, the growing I had to do. I mean, coming from someone who was a fourth grade kid or a 10-year-old who couldn't do a push-up, who couldn't get around the field, who couldn't do a sit-up, to getting looks from other major high schools across the state, across the PG County at the time. So that was major for me. And I'm very grateful for that. Going to eighth grade year, things started to pick up again in a good way. Got to the point where I wasn't just getting looked at from schools across the county. I was getting looked at from schools across the state. So other schools like in the Baltimore area, Spalding, Mount St. Joe's, St. Francis at the time, Gilman. Gilman was a high school that I went to. That'll be later. I'll tell you about that later. And in other schools, I had to go back and look, but other schools that like public schools, Friendly, and all those other guys, people started looking at me. People started to know who Ellison Jordan was during the time. And that was just a great time because it was like I was having fun, but also I was, getting recognition. And the recognition I also got was from my own organization, the own youth football team, when they gave me also the best defensive player, the best defensive lineman of the year and MVP of the year, my 8th grade year, as well as my 7th grade year. Forgot to mention that 7th grade year, they gave me MVP and the best defensive lineman of the year back to back from 7th grade to 8th grade. So those years with KLM was a blessing to me, because it got me in shape. It kept me active. It helped me meet people till this day. And, they helped me mold me into the high school player that I was, for sure. And I'm very forever grateful for KLM for, welcoming me in to the program and building me into the high school player that I was. So that was great. And another thing that happened during that time was my 8th grade year. I feel like 8th grade year was my best year, because that's where I kind of had everything, everything on lock. I was in the system. I was doing everything right, or not everything right, but I was doing some things in a good way. So when 8th grade year came around, or at the end of my 8th grade year, I got selected to play in this junior rate academic All-American game. And basically, it's like you have to have a 3.0 or above to play in that game. And you had to be a good football player too to play in that game. So I was one of the players to be selected for that game. And I remember playing in Phoenix and doing pretty well in the game as well. Like, I remember they put me at DN and I had like 2 to 3 sacks that game. So that was on a bigger stage versus other 8th graders across the country. And I was able to put myself on display for other people to see. And it came pretty well. And it was it was a pretty good run. I had a pretty good run in my youth football career. And I'm forever grateful for having football come into my life, because it not only helped me get in shape, but it kind of, gave me an identity in a good way. I'm not saying football is everything. We're more than football, but football was something that I love to do. And I still love to do to this day. And it gave me an identity for real. So to kind of have football stripped away from me in a fashion that the way it was, the fact that football was stripped away from me in the fashion that it was broke me a little bit, later down the line. But that's later. But I'm just forever grateful for KLM for welcoming me in to their program and making me into the football player I was in high school. So, but that's it for now. That's ball game. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I pray and hope you guys tune in for the next episode of the Unheard Athlete podcast, and I hope to see you guys soon. So thank you and have a blessed one.
I danced through it all, unheard story, real scars. This is the podcast where we dance through it all.